Libra, you are about to enter a 15-year cycle of ease and prosperity. Libra, nobody warned you about this because nobody talks about the uncomfortable side of ease. Everyone only talks about the beautiful side, the doors that open, the conflicts that dissolve before becoming problems, the people who suddenly seem more willing to compromise. It seems like a prize, and in a way it is. But every prize that's too big carries a hidden question within it, and that question is the one nobody has asked you yet. Do you know what to do with ease when it finally arrives? Notice something. Libras spend their lives adjusting the tone of their own voice so as not to seem too harsh, adjusting their opinions to avoid friction, adjusting the entire environment around them as if they were a living scale, always calculating how much weight to put on one side to compensate for the other. And the strange thing is that this scale never stops. Even when there is no weight left on either side, it continues to adjust itself out of habit, as if balance needs to be manufactured all the time, never simply exist. So, when something starts to change, when the universe signals that the next 15 years will bring less friction, less effort, more fluidity, Libra's first reaction isn't pure relief, it's distrust. Because if the scales have always had to move to keep everything upright, what happens when suddenly they no longer need to move? This question seems simple, but it carries a weight that most people have never dared to face head-on, not even when life gave clear signs that it was time to look inward. It opens a door that most people have never dared to look through. Because Libra's effort is not just a behavioral habit. At some point, long ago, it became identity. It became the answer to who I am. If someone were to ask a Libra without warning, what do you do best? The answer would almost always come wrapped in verbs like solve, balance, soften, mediate. Rarely does it come wrapped in I simply am. This is not vanity or a character flaw. It is emotional survival learned very early on, in a context where maintaining peace seemed to be the safest way to guarantee space, affection, and acceptance. A child who learns that disagreement generates discomfort learns, without realizing it, to anticipate discomfort before it even exists. And over time, this behavior ceases to seem like a strategy. It becomes personality. Imagine a muscle that has been tense for so long that it has completely forgotten what it feels like to relax. It's not that it chooses to remain contracted, it's that it no longer remembers the state of rest. Every time someone suggests, relax, everything is fine, that muscle, instead of easing up, contracts even more, as if the very invitation to rest were, in some way, a disguised threat. And it is precisely this muscle that will spend the next 15 years being invited repeatedly to rest. Not all at once, not with a magic snap, but slowly, almost against its own will, in the same way that any old tension usually gives way. In layers, with relapses, with moments of doubt about whether relaxing is safe. There is a symbolic explanation for this type of cycle, something the universe seems to calculate with a precision that escapes the common logic of everyday life. It's not random luck falling from the sky onto any given sign. It's more like a seed that has spent years being turned over, replanted and repositioned, and only now, after all this invisible work underground, finds soil that finally stops disturbing it. Think about how long a seed needs to lie still in the dark before anything begins to happen. No one sees the process, no one applauds the work underground. And yet, it is precisely this period of forced stillness that determines whether, when the light finally arrives, there will be enough roots to sustain what is born. Libra spent years in this kind of invisible work, internally reorganizing, without anyone noticing, its own relationship with effort, with merit, with the right to simply be well without needing to justify it. When the blossoming arrives, it's never instantaneous. It's a response to something that has been cultivated for a long time, silently, without recognition, without applause. And here's the detail that often goes unnoticed. Every answer presupposes a question. If this 15-year cycle is an answer from the universe, then there is a question being answered. And that question isn't about luck, nor about merit in the shallow sense of the word. The question, fundamentally, is about what Libra has done during all these years of invisible effort, with its own capacity to sustain harmony, even when no one was watching. Because there is a huge difference between maintaining peace because someone is observing, and maintaining peace even in solitude, without an audience, without immediate reward. A soil only stops resisting when it finally recognizes that the seed will not leave. And perhaps that is exactly what is happening now. The universe recognizing that Libra will not leave. But behind all that elegance, behind the reputation of being the easiest sign to get along with, there is a fear that almost no one admits out loud, not even to themselves. It's the fear of taking up space, the fear of receiving something good without first having earned it through visible, verifiable, measurable effort. Have you ever noticed how Libras tend to refuse the best seat at the table, to give up the last word in an argument they knew they were right about, to downplay their own achievements in the middle of a conversation, as if talking about their own merit was somehow impolite? The most comfortable explanation for this is to call it generosity. But genuine generosity doesn't come with a relief disguised as humility as soon as someone accepts, "No need, you can stay as you are." On the inside, this behavior has another name. It's almost an automatic reflex, trained over years, to back away before someone can say he's taken too much for himself. It's a silent anticipation of rejection disguised as good manners. What if rejecting what is good was never humility? What if, in fact, it has always been an ancient, almost archaeological way of protecting oneself from a judgment that may no longer exist, but that the body still treats as a real threat? There's a scene that repeats itself, with slight variations, in the life of almost every Libra. Someone compliments your work, and the automatic response comes out even before you've finished listening to the entire compliment. "Oh, it was nothing. I was lucky. Anyone could do the same." It's not genuine modesty. It's a defender's reflex, trained from an early age to never occupy too much space in anyone's field of vision. And the most curious thing is that this reflex, so automatic, is rarely perceived for what it really is, an old fear disguised as good manners. This habit of retreating from what is good, of anticipating a rejection that may not even happen, is one of the most silent patterns that Libra carries, and also one of the most expensive because it costs years of life lived halfway. It is precisely this type of pattern that the digital book, The 12 Laws of the Universe, that help this zodiac sign overcome spiritual envy, helps to recognize. It brings together teachings, interpretations, and exercises designed to help you understand these internal mechanisms and develop a more conscious attitude towards them, instead of repeating them for another 15 years without realizing it. For Libra, who builds so much on the outside, it's a direct invitation to look inside without fear of what you will find. Availability is limited. The link is in the first pinned comment. Access slots are limited. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. It is precisely at this point that the arriving prosperity ceases to be merely a gift and begins to reveal something much deeper. Because it doesn't ask if Libra is ready. It simply arrives, and upon arriving, removes from the path the constant effort that Libra unconsciously used to justify its own existence within relationships, work, and life as a whole. And when that effort is no longer necessary, something inside Libra loses its footing, because the question that was hidden behind all that elegance finally comes to the surface, unfiltered, without preparation time, without warning. It's not a shouted question. It's almost a whisper, the kind that only appears in the early hours of the morning, or during some unexpected moment of silence in the middle of the day. A whisper that asks, if I no longer need to balance anything, what will be left of me? Because for years, decades perhaps, the answer to who I am has been tied to the role Libra played in relation to others. And now, for the first time, that role is being gently removed from the stage, one piece at a time, as if the universe itself were dismantling the stage where Libra always knew exactly what role it had to play. It was in seeking answers to these reflections that the digital book, The 12 Laws of the Universe that helped the zodiac sign overcome spiritual envy, was born. More than just a simple read, it brings together teachings, interpretations, and exercises to help you understand patterns, develop a more conscious attitude, and cultivate a stronger mindset in the face of difficulties. For Libra, this book doesn't function as just another external manual full of rules. It functions as a mental attitude. It's a tool for developing the ability to find true balance, one that doesn't depend on smoothing things over for others or becoming indispensable through constant effort. It's about stopping getting lost in the pursuit of others' harmony and starting to build a harmony that springs from within. Something that any Libra deep down recognizes as true as soon as they hear it, even without knowing why. You're probably still processing what you just heard. Perhaps you recognized in yourself this habit of retreating, of softening, of never fully occupying the space you've always had the right to occupy. This discomfort that lingers in the air now, still active, still warm, is precisely the reason to act while it's still alive within you. Before tomorrow's routine stifles this clarity you just felt again. The link is in the first pinned comment. Access is subject to availability. Click now to download your copy. Now I want to ask you something, and I'd really like to read your answer in the comments. In what area of your life do you realize that you're trading effort for permission to exist, when in reality you've never needed to ask for any permission at all? This discomfort has a name, even if no one has taught you to call it that. It's the feeling of a room that has become silent after years of constant noise. And silence, however strange it may seem, bothers much more than chaos ever did. Because in chaos, Libra knew exactly what its role was, to balance. In silence, this function disappears, and along with it, vanishes the certainty of who Libra is when no one needs them to solve anything. That's where the real turning point of this cycle lies. It's not about how much money will come in, how many doors will open, or how many conflicts will cease to exist. You're dealing with a much simpler question, and at the same time, a much harder one to answer. If effort is no longer required, who does Libra become? There is a huge difference, almost invisible to the naked eye, between balancing the outside world and allowing yourself to be balanced by it. Libra masters the first from childhood, almost instinctively. The second is completely unknown territory, without a map, without prior experience. Imagine someone who has spent their entire life serving others, anticipating what each person needs, adjusting the plate, the chair, the atmosphere of the conversation before anyone even asks, and who suddenly is invited to sit down and be served. Their hands don't know where to put them. Their whole body is on alert, waiting for the moment to get up and return to their usual work. What truly changes when Libra stops paying for its own peace? Everything changes, because for the first time, peace ceases to be a negotiated achievement day after day and becomes simply a state of being. And there's a part of this that often goes unnoticed. Learning to receive is not the opposite of balancing. It's the most advanced version of it. Because simply balancing the outside world is relatively simple once you learn the mechanism. What's truly difficult is balancing the act of receiving with the feeling of still deserving, without turning that again into yet another task to be accomplished perfectly. That moment, the moment of receiving without knowing where to put your hands, of sitting at the table after years of serving, is exactly where many Libras get stuck, repeating the same cycle of effort disguised as virtue year after year. It is precisely there that the digital book, The 12 Laws of the Universe that help this zodiac sign overcome spiritual envy, becomes a practical extension of that moment. It brings together teachings and exercises aimed at helping you recognize, in practice, the exact moment when you exchange merit for effort, and to interrupt this pattern before it consumes another 15 years of your life. For Libra, who seeks balance in everything, this is an invitation to go beyond superficial harmony and achieve a harmony that doesn't need to be negotiated every day. Availability is limited. The link is in the first pinned comment. Access slots are limited. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. But this reconciliation doesn't happen overnight. And that's where the story gets even more delicate, because Libra's beauty, that lightness that everyone praises without understanding where it comes from, has always served two purposes at the same time. One of them is true. Libra really sees harmony where others can only see conflict. The other is an armor built with such care over so much time that almost no one notices it exists, not even Libra themselves most of the time. Imagine a jewel kept for so long inside a box that over the years it's almost forgotten that it could also be worn, displayed, seen in the light of day, and not just protected in the dark, away from any risk. That's what happens to the most authentic part of Libra when it's used year after year, only as a tool for pleasing, as an instrument to keep everyone around comfortable. Beauty becomes function, and function, however beautiful it may be, is tiring. What Libra discovers when it finally allows itself to shine without asking anyone's permission is not vanity, as Libra itself often fears. It's relief. It's the feeling of taking off tight clothes you've worn for so long that you'd forgotten what it was like to breathe deeply without calculating every movement. And that's exactly what this 15-year cycle is offering, behind all the material ease. Not just external comfort, but the rare chance to discover who Libra is when it doesn't need to prove anything to deserve its place in the world. There is a version of Libra that never had the space to exist because it was always too busy taking up space for others. This version didn't disappear. It just waited, kept safe, like a jewel in a box, for the moment when it would finally be safe enough to come out and be seen in the light of day without apologizing for taking up space. Discovering who you are without the armor of constant self-pleasing isn't an automatic process. It's something you build, layer by layer, with clarity and awareness, a little each day. This is exactly the kind of process that the digital book, The 12 Laws of the Universe that help the zodiac sign overcome spiritual envy, helps to organize. It brings together teachings, interpretations, and exercises aimed at strengthening your mindset in the face of difficulties and helping you understand the patterns that sustain this armor so you can then release it without fear of what comes next. For Libra, it's a direct invitation. Stop guarding your own beauty as if it needed permission to exist in the light of day. Availability is limited. The link is in the first pinned comment. And so, without fanfare, without drama, this cycle is complete. Not with a noisy victory full of applause, but with a scale that, for the first time in a long time, weighs nothing, because there is nothing urgent left to balance, only life to be lived. The next 15 years won't be easy, because the universe decided out of nowhere to gift Libra with free luck. They will be easy because at some silent moment, almost invisible even to those who live through it internally, Libra stopped negotiating its own peace. It stopped exchanging merit for effort every single day without rest. It stopped keeping its own light inside a box for fear of shining too brightly and bothering someone. The ease that is arriving is not a mystery that needs rational explanation. It is a mirror that was patiently waiting for the right moment to show Libra everything that it already was, inside, long before any astrological cycle began to move. Perhaps, in the end, the biggest change of the next 15 years won't even be visible from the outside. Perhaps it will happen in a much quieter space. In that instant, repeated day after day, when Libra chooses to stay, breathe, and receive, instead of retreating out of habit. Each of these small choices is in fact the true cycle completing itself, long before any external proof appears. And perhaps that's the true hidden beauty in all of this, discovering that the ease was never about the outside world suddenly becoming kinder. It was always about Libra, finally, after so long, stopping being so hard on themselves.